All right, folks. Welcome to the Shoe Beverage Bar. This is our second candidate forum. Kind of the way we've been doing it is 2 candidates at a time. Really more of like a informal get to know the candidates more than like a grilling on policy questions and stuff like that. These guys might be our mayor. We should like these guys, right? So, stuff that might be a little bit more who somebody is, more so than grilling on a bunch of policy questions that, might not be as fun. The way this is going to work, we're going to have about 7 minutes per candidate to kind of introduce themselves, say maybe, who you are, a little bit of your background. After that, we'll go into half an hour of just general questions. Some of them are from people sending them on Instagram. Some people have questions there. And then we'll have a little bit of time at the end to just meet and greet and closing remarks.
Sure. Let's do it.
Cool. All right. So candidates today, we have Ahmed.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Walé
Elegbede. There you go.
Yeah. I watched the League of Women's Voters one, and I was like,
well, they totally butchered that.
I know. That's why I watched it, and Eric and I were watching it just a minute ago.
Yeah,
I was like, we got to skip past the introductions, and we got to have Walé introduce himself because he said it, and they did not say it right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they totally butchered that.
That's why I'm going by Axe.
Yeah. So it's
like
Dr. Walé Elegbede.
Dr. Walé Elegbede.
There you go.
Perfect. Cool. Walé, we're going to start with you.
Sure.
We're going to go 7 minutes on the clock. Just go ahead and let us know what you think might be pertinent about your campaign and yourself.
Yeah, maybe. So first of all, I just want to thank you all for having us. This is a truly amazing place, and you guys have a fantastic place. So just at a high level in terms of like who is Walé and why does he tick? So I'm an American immigrant originally from Nigeria. I have 3 kids. Been in Rochester. I've served in Rochester for 10 years. I bring 20 plus years of experience, and I have a lot of credentials and professional degrees, and but I think what's important is that I care about people. In all of my roles, regardless of whether it was in healthcare or, the president of the NAACP or, a nonprofit, the main stuff has really been about people. And so that's really what makes me tick. I care about people. And that's why I'm running to make sure that our whole community is better and Rochester works for everyone, not just some. Been married 20 years. It's going to be 20 years in October to Audrey Elegbede.
Yeah, let's go.
Got 3 kids. Daughter just graduated with her master's, I think 6 weeks ago, or maybe 2 months ago. And so we're very excited about that. Master's in organizational development. Have a son, Jacob. He is doing fantastic. He's in the labs, and he's also taking photography classes. And then our youngest one, Idris, he keeps us on our toes. And so Idris there's a 10-year gap between, Zara and Jacob. They're close in age, and then we have a 10-year gap with Idris. And so Idris is really fun. And, well, they're all fun, but very different. And so every child is different, and so, yes, you can try to, hey, we did this for this kiddo. With the next one is going to be very different. So that's sort of our experience. But, service for me is important, and maybe I'll just share just to get back to like who Walé is. So when I in my journey to become a better leader, I took a bunch of classes and training and a whole bunch of stuff, and because I was trying to become, how do I become a better leader, a better person, and that took me to Viterbo University, and essentially, the only way I can describe it was when I was taking those servant leadership classes, it was really about becoming a better person, and so I have a doctorate in ethical leadership, and that really aligns with ethics. And, in terms of Rochester, we need ethical leadership, and we need transparency in our government and our leaders. We need people that care. There's some folks in the audience that I've worked with their partners in terms of education and making sure that we take care of our young ones. So at a high level, I'm running to make sure that Rochester works for everybody. There are a lot of challenges that I've talked to voters. People have talked about affordable housing and cost of living. People have talked about how do we make sure that Rochester is a welcoming community. We've had a lot of challenges in terms of that really challenges, is Rochester truly a welcoming community? And it's going to take intention for us to really do that. I'm committed to this role. This is something that I've taught about very intentionally. The underlying goal is really about that service. Wherever I've gone, it's really about how do I make sure I bring my skills, bring people together to make our community better. So excited to be here. Really glad that you guys are having us, and looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. You got extra time. You want to talk about something else?
No, I can keep going. Okay, yeah. So you guys are gonna just
yeah, I'll let you know.
So let me know the buzzer. So what do I love to do? I love sports. I love martial arts. I do Aikido a while ago, and I like to reflect a lot. Reflect on life, reflect on society. And I'm really busy. When you think about, for example, our role in the NAACP, this is the oldest civil rights organization in the United States, and in Rochester, this is going to be our 61st year. And there are a lot of challenges that we face, from social justice. And so when you think about the scope of Rochester is 120,000 plus people, our focus and our scope is the city of Rochester. And so we had a young a black boy with a disability that was being traumatized. Had to step up to really support that. There've been other incidences. So regardless of whether it's for me, it's really it doesn't really matter who you are. If there's something that is not making our community a welcoming place, we need to do that. I'm also not a single issue person. I've been engaged in education, and we'll be talking a whole bunch of stuff about that. So, but I'm just in terms of why should people care about Walé, or why should people what do people want to know about Walé? At my core, I care about people. At my core, everything that I've done in my life is really true an act of service, and that's really what this whole process is about. How do we make sure that Rochester is a welcoming place? We make sure that Rochester works for some. There's a lot of wealth in Rochester, but it's not reaching everybody. We have a great healthcare organization in Mayo Clinic, but Rochester needs to work for everybody, not just a single organization. How do we make sure the whole community benefits from that, right? We have fantastic youth in Rochester, and so there's a lot of great investments that we can make. But again, we need to invest not just in buildings, we need to invest in people. So,
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Axe, we're going to go the same thing.
All right. So I got to run my own timer. It just feels good. That way it keeps me honest on that side. But
Me too.
thank you. First, thank you to everyone coming here, joining live, Walé, for inviting me and having me here. This is great. This place is beautiful. I absolutely love it, and I'm excited for more people to be present. So Matt, Eric, really thank you for having us. It's terrific, and you can support more places like this. That's what we need. So just putting that to the side. Before I tell you a little bit about myself, I want to take just a moment to kind of think about what matters to us and kind of why I got into the race. So I'll take a quick show of hands. Like, how many of you know your city council member? Know their name? That's good, actually. So half the room, roughly. The other question that I've got is, if you know them, when your decision gets made or you have an input, do you feel heard? All right, I got a minus. That was a good one. Okay. And the last thing in terms of city feedback, when and how do you find out? Like, do you find out in real time, or do you feel like you're finding out after something's already been decided? So after. All right. Yep, we got everybody there. So that's why I'm running. The reason why I'm running is because I felt like I wasn't being listened to. My neighbors weren't being listened to. Our neighborhood was not being listened to. And I wanted to be heard. So before I dive into that aspect, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my background, and we can go from there. This city has raised me. My mother, an immigrant from Somalia, I was born in Somalia, on the heels of the Civil War. She came here on a Jefferson bus line with 4 kids. And the city has provided the opportunity for those 4 kids to become first-generation college graduates, for 3 of them to go to post-grad, and for 2 of them to become doctors. One of them, actually, so much so, my youngest brother, who's a little smarter than I am, I'll just tell you that. Yannick can attest to it. But a Rhodes Scholar, produced here in Rochester. That's phenomenal. That's what we should be aiming for. And we have a city that we can build on that. So given that, I love this place and I value the teachers that have come up with and the community and the support. So as I mentioned, I came up through RPS and through John Marshall, and here as both a husband, a father of 3, and I love my kids more than the world, and I would love to tell you all the crazy things that they do, but I do keep them private. So 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and 7-month-old. That's just, they didn't decide to run for mayor. I did. And I want to respect that. But my wife and I could have raised our family anywhere. But we chose to come back here to be close to our grandparents, to be close to our parents. And I'm betting my children's childhood on Rochester. And it's not a slogan, it's a real thing. So on that, here's how I got here. I serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission for Rochester, and then I'm part of the Rochester Downtown Alliances, which consists of 226 business district. And from the inside, I saw 3 gaps that came very clear to me. The gap between the information City Hall has, what residents can actually get, the gap between when a decision is really discussed and when the public hears about it, and most importantly, the gap between the city asking for your input, our input, and you ever seen what changed. Now, everyone in this race, and I think I want to take a moment and just highlight Walé, is that he's given community real service here. He respects it, and he has values and loves this place. And you cannot take that away from him, and I think that is incredible that every candidate has stepped up. For me, in stepping up, I wanted to close this gap. I believe Walé and I believe everyone here, but I didn't just notice the gap. I'm a builder. Like when there's a problem, I want to solve it. So it's what I do for a living, and I am built to fix it. So it's what I built was called Open Rochester. You can go on it right now. It's live. It's real. I spent the 2 weeks before I filed actually building that product as a proof of concept. And it is public information made simple, right? And for me, that is where it starts. So who owns the decision? What happened next? What was decided? The proof before anyone ever even asked. That's the difference between talking about a better way of doing something and then doing that thing. So to make it more concrete, like I'll dive into housing, right? Olmsted County needs about 18,000 homes by 2035, and we're building around 1,000 a year. And here's the part that nobody's going to actually tell you about. In 2025, we had a record $1 billion that still only produce about half the homes that we average. That's not a first money problem. That is exactly a measurement problem. And to that end, it has to be that we publish a housing scoreboard. Homes needed versus homes permitted. Every quarter on a record dollar a year can never again have a below average home development. On the record, representation should leave that record. So on public safety, am I at it? Oof. All right, I'll finish this up on it. Yeah, and then I'll just move into it. On public safety, it's the same thing. Give the department its dues, but we want to know is where are we spawning the quickest? Where are we not? Where are we doing this? And you can't make those decisions without actually having a data-informed decision making. So in applying my practicality and my analytics background and all of this is the foundation for accountability and transformation. That's what I'm offering. And what I'm also offering is something that has not been done before. And I'm asking you to join on that, which is to take up our civic duty and have your voice heard. And I'll tell you more about it as we go on, but I'm excited to be here and value all candidates running and our voices being heard.
All right. Loved it. Nice. Great opening remarks on that. We can go into either a little bit more.
Yeah, can I just jump into?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how,
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And Axe is totally right when he talks about, just the transparency gap. That's something that, in his open Rochester concept, it's something that Rochester needs, and we've had some of these conversations, when I think back at like 2017, I issued a press release. We had a whole bunch of conversations in terms of how do we bring transparency because there was no dashboard that was also easily accessible, and the focus then was also on like public safety. So we have, through the efforts of me and other collaborations, not just me alone, other efforts, within the community, there was some sort of a dashboard, right? But again, that's just sort of like a sliver. We need to make more transparency. And so the Open Rochester concept, it's something that is definitely needed. Anything that we can do to get people to know about the information before decisions are being made, that's something that is beneficial. So,
right on.
Absolutely. Can I add to that one? Because I'm going to call out
you guys riffing.
I'm going to call out my own gap analysis on that. He's absolutely right. I think what I'm building out and asking and Walé is right, is that we can ask for these things, but at some point we've got to roll up our sleeves and build it and make it happen. And the reason why I came up is this project would have cost $500,000 if we had anyone else do it. But because I've got the skills, I just did it. And that's because I want my neighbors to be heard, whether they're 70, 60, 80, or my 50-year-old business owner that's next to me, right? Or anyone else around me. The key part about it is that to make people heard, we've got to bring them along. And government and city hall has to be practical. It's got to be pragmatic. It's got to approach and meet people where they are, regardless of language barrier, regardless of income status, regardless of any aspect that they're in. If you live here in Rochester, we should have an input in the decisions being made by our representatives before it happens, not after.
Yeah.
I like it. Do you guys want to keep riffing on stuff like that, or do you want to get into softer topics?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. You take it away. I mean, there are a lot of issues in Rochester. I mean, transparency and ethical leadership is or government, that's part of it in terms of how do we bring people in, and the conversations that I've been having, and you'll hear that among many candidates, people are talking about affordable housing and cost of living and how do we sort of address that, and this is something that has been going on for a very, very long time. This is not just like this year's problem. I spent, when I was doing my MBA, I spent time just understanding, the affordable housing crisis in Rochester. So that's how far, we've been dealing with stuff. And, for me, the way to address, our affordable housing and cost of living, and mention that or share that in terms of like the gap. We have 18,000. There's a gap, in terms of just like a building, and the best practices, are really, you need to focus on building affordable housing. Well, how do you do that? Well, there are multiple ways. Yes, you can use TIF. There's also called community land grants, where, we're going to make sure that the house is sort of like owned by like a cooperative, like a co-op, making that word up. But then also, but then you own the house, so there are lots of different strategies that we can use to make, affordable housing. But best practices, that's not just it. And yes, you can build tiny homes and all of that stuff, which are important. How we do that is going to be really key. You don't want to build affordable housing and then it's only in that area because that means that's a project. You don't want that, so there has to be intentionality in terms of how we build that, and there's also the lenders, the banks, they have a role to play in that, because yes, you may build those homes, but can people afford those homes? You look at just the medium income gap, in terms of how much people are making and then how much homes are costing. There's a big gap there, right? And so, again, yes, we need to make homes affordable, but we have to talk to the banks and the lenders. They need to be part of this. And so there also has to be education, people's credit. So it's not just we build the homes and they'll come, So it's really having a more comprehensive framework. And there are things that the city council can use. You can use zoning, you can use TIFs, you can use, community land grants. There's a whole bunch of stuff, tools that, city council can do. And so for me, it's really how do I, leverage all of these skills in service of our community. But it's the situation is not tenable, and so that's a big issue, that people have been talking about.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep that going.
Yeah.
You guys are big on housing at the moment, so I'm just gonna throw a little kindling on the fire. There are some questions in
Yeah,
here
sure.
that work with that. As a growing city, how do you view single family housing versus population density with more high rise apartments, stuff like that, as well as making a city bikeable and walkable as cities grow? People in larger cities, and Rochester will become a larger city. Lots of people don't drive. How does that work with public transportation, things of that nature? As well as, like Mayo Field is being decommissioned. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you envision turning into like a housing project? Not project in that way, but in like does the city do something with stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you can go ahead.
Yeah, I can go. So, and you packed a lot, in that question. So I'll just sort of share that, in terms of how do we make? Can you give me the first part of the question and then I'll answer?
Yeah. As like a growing city, how do you envision the city growing with like population density versus single family housing and sprawl?
Gotcha. So the answer that people have been sharing with me, it depends on who you talk to. Yes, we need single family homes. But, a lot of folks that I've talked to, like, look, you know what, I have a growing family. I need multi-family homes. And so, we need to make sure that we have homes that cater to different folks, right? Now, a big contention, or maybe that's too strong a word, but, folks are, concerned about, like big apartment complexes, showing up in their backyard. And that's something that's really real. Now, do apartments have a place? Yes, but how we do it, and frankly, there's a whole bunch of apartments that people can't afford to live in. So, so you go back to that whole affordability aspect where my paycheck is not enough to cater for for this apartment, and for some of the families, you're like, look, we have a big family, and so how do we make sure that we want to own a home? We just don't want to be in an apartment. We want to own a home, and home is home ownership is the greatest way for building wealth. And so city council has an opportunity to really lead in this effort. This is something that you have the 18,000 housing unit gap. And so this is something that is really affecting people. People's property taxes are going up, and so the mayor definitely has a role to play in that, in collaboration with city council, for making sure that, and obviously working with partners like the county as well. But yeah, that's something that's very important. Spent a lot of time understanding the problem, and it's a real problem.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. I agree with everything Walé is saying. Every candidate on this ballot wants affordable housing. But my stance is that don't tell families how many units were announced or were needed or built, but show them what got built, who can afford it, and what's still missing, right? So to that end, for me, it's the nurse who has to drive in from Orinoco or from Byron or from Pine Island because they can't live here. That's a 45 to a minute commute. It adds time and takes away time from their families. So being able to afford living here in Rochester matters. How do you fix that is the next question. And as mayor, you have to be honest about the role and the powers of the office, right? So for me, it's direct the agenda. Planning and zoning appointment, I'm part of it, and I've worked to critically think about that and to reject and or accept things that move us forward. The permit clock, the budget that we would recommend, a housing cabinet with a shared unit target, right? Now, the mayor cannot get this done. There is a level where I go back to is that to be an effective mayor, you have to have resident input, right? And the council and the county zoning dollars that actually unlock the supply, the pressure has to come from the people that are in charge. And that is all of us that live here and pay taxes. So from that end, it's publish the housing scoreboard. What's needed, what's permitted, what are we actually spending our dollars on? And then we can never get to a below average home development despite a permit $1 billion year. That's how you solve that problem. Map it, measure it, fix it, report back to all of us. Real time, not before. Real time, not after. That's where I'm coming in. Now, there was a second part to your question about walkability.
I totally missed
toss
that.
It back.
Yeah, can you say the question again on walkability?
Yeah, just as the city grows, and this is kind of a personal thing.
Yeah.
Population density is a big deal. Sometimes people hate that, but a walkable city is huge for some people. You might come here and not have a car. You see that in lots of large cities. Is that in the future for Rochester? Do you think a bikeable, walkable city should be high on the priority list, or do you think
100% it needs to be high on the priority list. Not everybody wants a car or should have a car. If you want a bike, and that's fine, but you should be able to get access to any of your essential services. That's just part of human dignity, the way I look at it. And so there are a lot of things that we can do. How do we make sure that we have, good bike lanes? Now, yes, Rochester is getting engaged, is doing some good work in that aspect. How we do it also is going to be important. We need to talk to our businesses. We need to talk to our community members. There is some tension between business owners and bikers in terms of, hey, wait a minute, now we have this bike lane and it's affecting, my whole route. So there's going to have to be, a give and take, right? And so coming up with those solutions, however, is going to take all of us to do that. But in terms of the questions of do we need a better bike lanes? I think yes. I mean, why do people come to Rochester? Well, you come to Rochester for your family. You come to Rochester for your work, for healthcare. But then also really for the parks and for just like a good quality of life, right? And I've shared this in the past. I think it's important for Rochester for us to have like a welcoming, strategy, and also tied to an economic development plan, and it's something that's really broad. So within our welcoming, plan, well, that means quality of life. Well, that means parks. That means bike lanes. Where all of our community members have an input and have a say into, well, what does Rochester, let's reimagine Rochester. What does that look like? That also means, investing in, greenhouse, green technologies, and we have some of those buses, and I know that's a part of the city's plan, but we could do a lot more in terms of making sure that we take care of our environment, that we also make sure that, our kids have a great place to go. I mean, I'll just share this. The first time when I came to Rochester and went to Silver Lake Park, it was beautiful, but then you have, poop around, right? It's like, how do we make sure those essential services that we clean it up, we have something really good, but it's not hard to do. I mean, there have been other communities where you go to the park, you go to the lake, it's clean, So again, we just have to make it a priority. And if we make it a priority, just like if we make Open Rochester or transparency a priority, or just like we make, housing a priority, we can do that. It's not really, I don't believe it's hard. The question is, do we have the will? And it's going to take a mayor being able to collaborate with city council as well as other partners, So I think that's what it's going to take. But to answer your question, yes and yes.
All right.
I mean, I agree with Walé on all of that, and that absolutely holds true. The one thing is that every trip in this city starts and ends on foot, right? And it's got to be built for the person that's walking around and navigating. I love the city, and that's why we returned and are raising our kids and our kids' futures here. We also loved living in D.C. D.C., despite its density, was walkable, access to open parks, green spaces, and families could come together. That's what we need here. Rochester is recognized for a bicycle-friendly, walk-friendly city. Yes. And I think that is true, but we're still missing a gap here. And for me, one of the things would be to appoint a bike pedestrian appointed committee that actually can oversee and help navigate that, right? I wrote about the Link BRT in August 2025, just as a resident. And the reason for that was that despite being pro-transit and seeing what we needed, we had a budget that ran from $110 million to nearly $200 million. I can give you the specific numbers, $196.7 million. That's 70 million per mile. That's the entire budget is the entire budget of Duluth that we're spending a 2.2 mile corridor. Seattle built the same thing for 15 to 20 miles. And the problem and the catch is we did that with a single bidder. So no wonder it's a surprise it went up that much. And that's where I'm coming back to. It's not the pro-transit. We are pro-transit and pro-walker friendly and bicycle friendly, but no blank checks, right? And to push that, I know I've got a couple more minutes on this, is the pavers is a good example. A lot of residents are complaining about downtown, and it makes sense. We spent $19 million on raised pavers. That is a walk of art. However, we're spending another $500,000 just to replace all of that because it was inaccessible to wheelchair, to handicap, to people, right? That was because we didn't think to take a moment and say, hold on a minute, raised pavers doesn't seem like a good idea here. And to say, oh, people can't walk, elderly can't walk, senior residents can't walk here, kids might trip and fall. But yet we went ahead and barreled it, despite what would have just worked with a green space with movable benches that would have brought families together to just collect and be together. And then we could have spared that budget and actually did something that's more durable and sustainable for the long term. But now we're going to go back to fix it.
Yeah, how do you mess up the pavers? I just don't, I don't get it. It's look, as so I'm a father with a son with a disability. This is so obvious. Yeah, I mean it's so. But what it shows though is, well, what I think it shows, because it was very evident to me, it was very evident to a lot of people about the whole paver situation, is did you actually talk to people? Because if you talk to community members and if you made sure that this process was very inclusive, the disability committee would have said that, hey, I like going, I have a wheelchair, I can't really move around, so it's very, I mean, even from a litigation perspective, I mean, just think about potential lawsuits. So it's, I don't know how we got to the whole paver situation, but no, I mean, it is waste of money.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I agree with you that we need to listen. And I'll start my clock on this, so that way I'm not running over. Just contrast and build on exactly what you're saying is that yes, the pavers is just a singular issue, right? The thing is that we can listen to people, to our residents in our community, but we're not doing it. Despite all of this, our people that are responsible for making these decisions are railroading and essentially going forward with their idea. So then how is it that we are being represented, right? How is it that as a neighbor, we are being represented if somehow the entire city disagrees with a decision, but yet the decision is still being made? That's my whole contention. That's my whole point of pushing this. The mayor can have two positions in this role. You can either be a ceremonial mayor, walk around, shake hands, great. Nice to have. That's not the mayor I want to be. The mayor I'm going to be, or I want to be, is the one that amplifies the voices of the people and says, you know what? You told us this is what you were going to do. Ward 6 rep, Ward 4 rep, city council member, this is what you said you were going to represent for your ward. Great. Now let's see it. Let's put you on the record. Let's track every single thing that you're doing. For me, it's absolutely, I'm trying to find the word without being too political.
Without being saying it's asinine.
Asinine. Yeah, it's absolutely asinine, right? For us to not have city council members without a scoreboard. We wouldn't send our kids to school without a report card. You wouldn't want your teachers teaching your kids without being evaluated, but yet we're being represented by that same sort of concept. And then you come around 3 years later and ask for my vote. I don't want that. I want you to be on the record, and when you tell me you're going to do X, Y, and Z, I want to see it and I want to follow it. Look at it objectively and come back around, and then decide if I'm going to vote for you or not.
Yeah. I'll maybe just sort of share this. The pavers it's a symptom of we've had a lot of bundled projects. at least what the public feel are bundled products. You have the sports complex, you have the pavers now. Now you have the fireworks. Again, those are examples, right? Ultimately though, Rochester, the city government, they need a project management office. And I've spent a lot of years in project management professional, organizational change management professional. So at the end of the day, how do we make sure that whatever initiatives we have become a reality? And you need to have some dedicated folks that's really what their job is, to make sure that whatever we're planning, we're doing it on budget, on time, on scope, and then reporting out and making sure that information is also very accessible. So that things like that are going to be really important to build trust. But there have been some decisions lately that, at least for a lot of the people that I've been talking to, it does not resonate. And I think that's an opportunity. The role of the mayor is to listen, to bring people together, I feel, and also to form coalitions, because you can't do this by yourself. It's going to take everybody. And how do we center our community voices in that whole process? That's the kind of mayor that I'm running to be, to make sure that we bring people in. Sometimes it may be slow, but you know what? It's okay to be a little bit slow and you get the decision right than to, run it through. And now we have a sunk cost, and now we're spending more money on stuff. But I am optimistic about Rochester's future. We have a lot of good people that care. We have a community that cares. And so, and I, frankly, I think we have, city council members that care. But how do we translate people's wishes and the vision into reality? And so really, I think, having a comprehensive plan where the community buys in, the community provides input. And so now we know what the master plan is. We know what we're doing, because it's not what we're saying, is what the community has said. And then we execute that, and then we can report back on that.
Love it.
Do you want me to riff, or do you want to keep going?
I don't know. Totally up to you guys. I don't have a structure. What do we...
All right, I can riff off of that, because I think Walé brings up a very good point, right? We know the who, the when, the how, the why, but the thing that we don't know is the how, right? How do we connect people's voices to city council? Right now, at this current moment, there's a city council meeting going on that's going to impact Elton Hills Drive. That's where I live. That's where my family lives. They're making that decision right now, in real time, at 6 p.m. We could be there. However, that's not practical for working families. That's not practical for parents. That's not practical for nurses and physicians doing ER shifts. What I'm saying is we can make City Hall much more pragmatic, much more practical, bring and work to you in real time. The technology exists. I'm prove the concept. It's bringing it to you where you are, no matter your language barrier, no matter where you came from, your education level, meeting you where you are so you can civically engage and take on your right and make your voices heard. So when your representative tells you that they are listening to you, you can track it and see it. So to that end of the how, that's the work. The mayor's role is that you can't snap your fingers and, fix everything. The city council has already sidelined this. If you read the 1904 charter, follow it all the way from the beginning to 1992 to 97 to 2012, you would see that. Doesn't mean that the mayor is weak still. What it does mean is that there are pressures still to be applied, and the true governing body of this city are the residents, and how you get things done is by having their voices heard real time, applying it to the city council. So when they go to vote on my Elton Hills Drive, I don't have to take a Monday night off, show up at 6 p.m., be listened to for 2 minutes, and then still be followed. Decision is already made where they can see this, and I could be at home with my kids, and you could be at home with your kids. Put it into an input couple days before and know, hey, this is how we feel as this ward. how you should vote on this issue. And if you don't, great. That's your decision. You're representing us. But now I want you to come back and tell me exactly why you voted that way.
I like it. That's awesome. We're kind of at that 30-minute mark on some of the more substantive matter.
Yeah.
Do we want to get into another topic, or do you want me to
Go
go
for it.
on a couple of
Yeah,
questions
you
that
can-
might be a little more?
Yeah, whatever you want. Just you just
Let's just go back into maybe a little bit more of you guys and who you are and things you like in Rochester. And these ones maybe are just going to be about a minute to 2 minutes between you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Just yeah. I mean, I think you guys got some really awesome information in your
Yeah.
platform out there. I think that was fantastic. But I'm just gonna go with first one is just you have friends or family come to visit. What do you do in Rochester? What are you gonna show them? What do you love to do? Where are you going?
So, well, when people come to, I lived in La Crosse for a long time before we moved to Rochester. And one thing about La Crosse, and I'll center this on Rochester, but one thing about La Crosse is things are a little bit more affordable. You have the college scene, you have, and so when you go to Rochester, at least when we first came, it was like, well, hey, we have maybe the restaurants are sometimes a little bit more expensive. We don't, the traffic is not as there, it's just a different vibe. But the good stuff is you have, places like UMR, their building, there are a lot of great things that are happening in Rochester. So look, I think with Rochester, we just have a huge opportunity. I love the downtown scene. I love our restaurants. I love obviously our city parks. Quarry Hill, for example, is just a great place. So we have a lot of really great investments and bike trails. So there's a lot of stuff that Rochester has going good for it. Silver Lake is great, but we got to clean up the poop. So, but apart from that, so we just have a lot of great stuff. But we could do so much more. I love the arts. Like one of my priorities in our platform is arts, a workforce, and and innovation. Well, how do we bring Rochester's art scene? And that's something that is not just a feel good. So when I talk about that whole welcome in Rochester strategy, well, arts is part of that. So I'm part of a group of folks where we're building out Rochester's arts initiative, right? So how do we have separate from the art center, but how do we have a group where we can just really bring out the arts, And if you have the art scenes and you have music and you have jazz and you have fun stuff, well, that helps our businesses, that helps the sound bar where people what can we do to bring people out, right? Because when people come out, that benefits, the community in terms of just a wellness perspective, in terms of engagement, community. There's also an economic opportunity there. So really, me and my wife, we have date nights, regularly. We go to different restaurants in Rochester. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? 2 days ago, we went to an Ethiopian restaurant, Enot, right? Beautiful place, so definitely check it out, right? And, we've gone to, so again, we were very intentional in going to different restaurants. I love to dance. We don't have a great dance scene in Rochester. So again, we have so much opportunity. And when I go to places like New Orleans, it's like, we can just, make Rochester fun. Now, we have a lot of great talent here, but and how do we ensure that all of our amazing local talent can really shine? But yeah, so I'm excited. Whatever we can do to make sure that people don't have to go to Minneapolis or go to Chicago or go somewhere else, that if you're a visitor or if you're a resident here, everything that you need is right here, and we can also make Rochester fun. So I think if we do that, that will solve our economic problem. At least it will make Rochester a better place. It's going to be great for our children, right? And so again, so those are the things that I look at. Now the city, they are making important investments, so I know there's investments in MLK Park that's going to be helpful. We have Cascade Lake. So it's not like city council is not doing work, but we need to, again, bring in people's voices. Thursdays downtown is great. How do we make sure we have initiatives like that where we can bring in artists, national artists, and that benefits our community? So there's a whole bunch. And these are just some of my ideas. We need to get ideas from our community. And then obviously those ideas will be even better.
Great question. Work right off of it and feed right off of the Thursdays downtown. If it's Thursday, that's where we're headed with my kids. It's a fun spot. Shout out to Sean. I am on the board. Disclosure of Rochester Downtown Alliance.
Sean's great.
Yep. And it's it brings businesses from across Minnesota, actually. And really, it's just a genuine, wonderful place to be. Thursdays downtown all the way. Now, what do? We do the boring stuff. I'm a parent now. Like, you're not going to catch me at a club at like 9 p.m. or running around. Yeah, like I'm just boring parent now, right? So that means everything centers around walking around, playing around, visiting parks with my kids, right? That is, we're headed out to Cascade and dipping our toes in the water, chasing my little one up above the whatever beam he's trying to climb and fall off of, or we're headed and walking around the art center where Laura and I got married. It's just going to different spaces that matter to us and that allow our kids to connect. Quarry Hill, we probably visited that over 100 times. And my kids still think they visited it with their grandparents more than us. So there's that. But Rochester's got a lot of spaces. And those spaces need to continue to be spaces for families to get together and for community to interact, right? And that's what I love about it. We do the very boring stuff. When it comes to restaurants and eating out, which we don't get a lot of date nights, I'll tell you that.
It'll get better. It'll get better.
I don't get a lot of date nights.
And then you're going to be like, kids, we love you, but we're going to leave you.
But I'll be candid in that, right? Since we started coming back and returned, Blue Duck is our anchor spot. We love the people there. And the reason for that is after every CT, after every scan, after every treatment, Laura and I would go there. And we got to know the people on a real level. When we had our first daughter, she was there. And when we had big events, she was there. So Blue Duck was our anchor. Nonetheless, from bitter to pour and speakeasy to above, and then from running around Cascade Lake, which Laura does often, Rochester's got great places. Can we be better? Absolutely. Because 7 months out of the year, it is cold and we need to figure out, and walking around the halls of Mayo with your kids isn't the only thing that needs to get done. So there has to be some spaces that offer that offer us to come together when it's blistering cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll just sort of add that, so there are a lot of hidden gems. And I think, the Shoe Beverage, you guys are one of those hidden gems because your old fashioned is off the chain, right? So, and that's not just for a favorable. I mean, it's really nice. So, yeah, I'm not paying for that. So, how do we? Well, I am paying for that, but
we're not paying for the endorsement.
Yes, but how do we ensure that all of these hidden gems that people know about it, right? I mean, people are looking for new things to do. We love Blue Duck. We've gone there. There are lots of different restaurants. So how do we make sure there's something new, right? So it's really about bringing that excitement. Again, you're going to have to work with businesses, and businesses are people like you. You guys are, you're a business, but you're people. You're a part of our community. So that's going to be really important. So, listen to our community members. But yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities in terms of, for example, Lasagna Natividad. She just, they do Soul Train. She's part of Soul Train. So we have a lot of amazing talent in Rochester, the Deceivers, for example. How do we make sure that people are aware? How do we make sure that this is accessible? How do we make sure that, restaurants and bars like yours, people know about it and it's not a hidden gem, right? That has to be part of a framework. That has to be part of an overall plan. And it's actually good for everybody in Rochester. It's good for residents. It's good for visitors, because if you're a visitor, you just don't want to, you want to find something to do, right? So, and if we do that, and obviously if we make sure that, our downtown parking and it's accessible, all of that stuff will help ensure that, hey, you know what? People, come and stay and businesses don't close down.
Love it. On that note, let's go with some sort of deep cut on either bar, restaurant, some public service or business, something that like you love, but maybe people don't necessarily know about that you like to go to. I know you mentioned Enot. I love that place. It's quite a vibe.
Yeah.
Food is good.
Yeah, we're a foodie.
Yeah. Where would you go, or what on the menu are you just like, man, people don't know we have this?
Jeez. This is a tough one, man. It's because we go to a lot of different restaurants. So you have, there's so many restaurants. You have Enots, you got obviously Blue Duck, you got, if you're looking for, like more cultural, you have Jersey Joe's, you got Francisco's. There's a lot of stuff that we have in Rochester. So I just try to be more intentional where it's also boring if you're going to the same place, at least for me. So, I just want to mix it up where this weekend we're doing that. And, but again, there've been fantastic restaurants that have closed, Otori Sushi, that's also a great place, right? But you can only go there so much. So we need to create more variety.
Yeah. Places that we go and eat at, absolutely agree on all those spots. Already anchored. Blue Duck for us are in place that we absolutely love. Ichi Tokyo, and love that spot. Yeah. But and we love getting sushi. A secret spot that we as a family always get food from, and you got to go and pick it up because you can't get it delivered. Hunan Garden. It is absolutely amazing and delicious. Like when at the end of the day, you can't get it on a Sunday, but on Christmas, they are the only ones open. So, we'll get food taken out and got to go pick it up. And they've known our family and my wife's family for decades now. Hunan Garden is a great spot. Other spots that we love in Rochester on that, honestly, there's a great many, right? From Cafe Key for just getting quick coffee or meeting up with Novios. It's the exploration. It's the ability to say, you know what, I haven't gone here. Let's go see what might be different here. Can we show up to the shoe? Shout out to the shoe again.
Hey, thanks.
But places where you can bring people together. Yemeni Coffee in Southeast Rochester, delicious. Go grab a coffee cup there. Support their local business, right? At the end of the day, these are the people that are paying taxes, that are paying property taxes, that are contributing and creating a group and a community for us. And I can go on and on, but it's just that community. So how do you support them and you become intentional about it? Go to places where they are at and where they want you to come and be at.
And I'll just maybe add just a 30-second deal. It's like, so this is something that's going to take everybody. So if we want our restaurants and businesses to stay, that means we need to get out and we need to support, right? And at the same time, we're also dealing with, challenges of cost and all of that stuff. But again, so it's really, you just have to jump in, support these amazing businesses. And we got great restaurants. We need to get a lot more, a lot more diverse restaurants. That'd make Rochester a lot more fun. But you look at all the restaurants Thursday downtown. So those are quite a lot. And so again, we just need to be intentional and how do we ensure that, it's not just, if you own a food truck, how do we ensure that your food truck translates eventually into a brick and mortar store, right? So again, those are things that we need to do.
Yeah. Since we're getting into business, can I just go right off of that and talk about small businesses?
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
do you want to
we-
get
we
something else
probably-
on the radar?
We
Go for
probably
it.
got like 10 minutes left, and then I have one more question. So if you guys want to split like 5
Sure.
minutes on small business, I
Sure,
think that's
sure.
nice.
Yep,
Yeah.
let's do it. Okay. First, shout out to Jersey Joe. Amazing, delicious food. Definitely go get your Philly cheesesteak there. Tins, which just closed, unfortunately, right? So for that aspect, Thai Pop, wonderful. Sammy
it.
Lowe's spot.
Yeah.
Now that
Shout
is
out to
now-
Shammy.
Yep, closing as well. I think when it comes to, we've got great places. So credit first to Business Forward and Downtown Alliance and the Rochester DMC. However, the businesses that have helped make downtown worth investing in are being lost, right? Over the past 2 years, we've had 24 plus restaurants close. That's unacceptable when we've got $5 billion being injected into a downtown. So the businesses that are worth investing in should still be here when the construction's done. To lose small businesses and say we've built something is incongruent. There's a gap there, right? To bring in new businesses and lose the ones that you have is incongruent. It is not. It can't be acceptable. So for that end, we have to do something different. Right, you're not throwing out what Rochester's doing well. You're just strengthening it, supporting the transformation. Right. So for me, it's measure that impact directly in real time. What businesses are being affected? Which ones are surviving, and what are they doing right? Could we learn from them? Can we get them in a coalition? Can we get them in a room? Right. And then more importantly, targeted construction impact relief fund. If you're going to interrupt and tear up Broadway here where people can't get to your door, that's a direct bottom line impact to the shoe. There has to be some way to mitigate that risk. And coming from a business analytics background, that's the sort of strategy and prior thinking, current thinking, and forward thinking that you have to apply. And when council members or reps are making these decisions, they're disconnected from the people that are being impacted. And my whole intention is whether they want to be disconnected or not is not a choice. I'd bring them right up to the front of it for them to see that that is the case, right? So that's where I'm coming from. These are real businesses, real people, real community, and I've grown up with everyone here, and that's why it matters, and I care about it. The shoe should be here 20 plus years from now, 30 years from now. Continue it on. It's wonderful. You can develop smart, be bold, build boldly, but learn from what we've done right and wrong.
So yeah, and I agree with what Ashley shared. You know, I'll just in conversations I've had with businesses, there's a lot of frustration. Again, businesses are owned by people that care about a community. You know, they're making investments. People have talked about, you know, the property taxes are impacting us. You know, we need to pay our, you know, our building owners. That's, you know, cutting into our profit. So you guys are, you're way ahead of that. And then also, look, you know, especially when you look at downtown, it's like people want to come, but there is no place to park. You can literally, so accessibility is a big thing. So, so if we want to address some of our small business issues, we need to address, you know, accessibility. And again, as I've talked to people, those are some of the things that have come out. You know, accessibility is extremely important. And it makes sense. You know, if you want to go downtown, you know, and, you know, on a weekday, it's, you know, there's no parking spot. And so what do? Well, then you have to go somewhere else. And so again, so there are unintended consequences of some of the decisions we make, you know, with a lot of the construction going on downtown, you know. The other thing is really, you know, homelessness. You know, how do we ensure, you know, we address, you know, our homelessness situation, you know, as a city, Rochester needs to make sure that they actually make more investments, in addressing the homelessness situation. I think that's something that the city, the county, and big organizations like Mayo and others need to play a part in that. If the city council can make investments, for UMR, for example, which I love, and I definitely agree with all of those decisions. We also need to have an important strategy to really address some of the homelessness situation, and that's going to take money. It's going to take investments to be able to address that. And when you're doing that, it's not just now you're addressing the homelessness situation, but then there's also an impact to businesses. So again, all of these are really interconnected situations. But we have businesses that just want to really be successful. And how do we make sure that we get out of the way where people can actually go and support these businesses? But yeah, so totally agree. I mean, if we want to make Rochester fun, we need to make sure that people can get to the places that are fun, And right now, it's a big hindrance. I love our restaurants. I've talked to different owners. I've talked to Pasquale. I've talked to other, Sammy. I mean, there are a lot of restaurants, as Ax mentioned, that are no longer, here, and I think that's a failure. And so how do we ensure that if you're a business, because no business owner comes in to say that I'm only going to be operational for 2 years or 3 years, that's not what you're planning to do. And so, city council has, an important role to make sure that, we're measuring, we're providing all the necessary support. So, and yeah, so it's, yeah. So again, there are organizations like the Downtown Alliance, you have the Chamber, but from a downtown perspective, the fact that we're having so many closures and people talk about accessibility, they talk about the cost of, rent being extremely high, and then they also talk about all of the construction that's happening downtown. Some talk about, we love our bikes, but, this is also impacting us. So again, we have an important problem that we need to deal with.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Do you want to ask a question, or I can vibe right off of that?
Totally up to you. Again, maybe like
Yeah,
just
let's
a couple more minutes.
do that, and then let's do something fun.
All right. I'll take 1 minute off of that and kind of just answer that aspect or build right off of Walé, because it makes very good points. I think we want to be heard, and we got to ask people, and we got to do all these things. Like, we've heard it before and over and over. And we can't keep doing the same thing. I ran on the last day because I just got tired of that same rhetoric of we're listening to you. And because for me, this is real stakes. My kids live here and they're going to live here. Our parents live here and they're going to continue to live here. New families are going to live here. It has to be affordable. We got friends that are business owners. We've got family that are business owners, right? And they're contributing to this place. To say that we're listening to you and doing X, Y, and Z is just what removed it for me, that we needed to push further and think more innovative. If we keep doing and thinking the same way that we've done, we're just going to repeat the same outcomes. And it's playing right now in real time. We built a dome in 2017 winters ago, in 2013, promised by the city the same plan and agenda of it's going to bring more economic vitality. It's going to bring more outsiders in. It's going to have tournaments X, Y, and Z. It's laying flat at RCTC, and RCTC just said, this is not a good idea. It's unsustainable. But yet, we just hired a consulting firm, $1.5 million, to assess the feasibility of a $65 million dome of a sports complex that we inverted on what we promised the residents. We didn't learn. That's an experiment that we are about to run again that's going to cost us and cost our kids, that we could reallocate those funds somewhere else. But if you are listening to the public, then why is it that we are still barreling forward with it? That's because there's no accountability to it. There's nobody actually in the way. And what I'm proposing is a completely diametric opposition to that. It is a mayor that says, you know what? Okay, you think this is what you're going to do, but I'm going to actually give the impact and the power to the people it belongs with, the residents. And you got to go and explain yourself to your residents. And when you don't show up and you come knocking for a vote, they can remove you. That's accountability. It's not the mayor to do that. It's the people to do that. And as a resident, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I'll just share this. Residents that I've talked to and myself, people don't feel listened to. And so that was very intentional when I said, when I'm running, bringing leadership that listens, that brings people together, and then we also deliver results. So that's what it's going to take.
Love it. All right, we got one fun question, and then I got the kind of just closing remarks.
Yeah.
All right, we're a beverage bar, right? So that's fun. What's your drink of choice? And then also, what kind of music are you listening to when you're drinking that?
Geez. You want to go?
Absolutely can.
Yeah.
I've got a variety. I'll do a kombucha coffee, old fashioned, and most importantly, if I'm listening to music, it depends on the mood. I will tell you, I've been much more into metal. So a lot of people actually don't know about that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very different from.
Most people don't know.
Yeah.
Yep. So I listen to R&B, rock, everything in terms of genre-wise. But I've been actually attending a lot more rock concerts and heavy metal. So in this moment, there's a band coming to Milwaukee that I've got concert tickets to that I'm taking that one over there to. And last time we saw our little one was in the womb, and when prior to that, Slipknot came on and had their "I in This Devil" song, and it just at XL Energy, it was so loud that our little one started kicking. So our Laura's like, "I got to get out of here. It is too loud. Baby's kicking, and we got to go." So, needless to say, I cut that concert a little short. But no, from jazz to classical music. Laura always thinks I'm weird for leaving our classical music on for our dogs, or just having the radio on for them. But it's just, it's a way to connect, to reset, to settle in, and take a breath with yourself. So from being on a beach with the reggae music to going to rock concerts, that's what I love and how I go about it.
Perfect.
Yeah, drinks, old fashioned. I love margaritas as well, but old fashioned is like our go-to, and you guys make a great old fashioned. Music, love jazz, blues, R&B. Love Afrobeats. Merengue. So I like a lot of stuff. I'm not yet into the metal.
It takes some time.
But rock. Pop. So yeah. But anything that moves me. I love to dance. It's So that's Walé is a dancer. Walé loves to dance. Good dance moves. Just yeah. So yeah. So that's sort of just
we're gonna be seeing Walé dancing downtown.
Yeah, there are videos of Walé dancing, but you're gonna have to really look hard to find them, But yeah, I just love So that's and so we need a dance place where you can actually go and just have fun and dance in Rochester, where you don't have to, so. There are a lot of gaps of what we can do, but so I love to do that, and my wife loves to dance. So I will share this. So been married for 20 years, and when we first got married in the States, I had no money. So, when I first, when I was going to college, I had no access to student loans, no access to financial aid. And so, it was a struggle. And, things started to do well when I, created a business, paid my way through college. So that was fine. But initially, our wedding was just really simple. And so, like, later on, we did like a traditional wedding, and we went all the way to Nigeria. And basically, my wife, I mean, she's a great dancer too, and she went viral, and I think she had like 1.5 or something million views. And so you have this beautiful white woman in the African attire and just dancing, and my one of my aunts, when we went to visit her, she's like, "Well, I heard about you," So, so again, we just love the culture, dancing, and it's just dance is life. It means you're alive. It means you're moving, and so yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Awesome. Closing remarks are just going to be the answer to this question, and then we're going to call it there for today.
Perfect.
But say you're elected. Finish this sentence. 4 years from now, I will have done my job well if.
There you go. You got it.
Yeah. So 4 years from now, I'd have done my job well if the people of Rochester's goals and dreams have been achieved. It goes back to the leadership that listens, leadership that brings people together and delivers results. And that's a tall tale because we have a lot of needs, we have a lot of wants, but people are not asking for unreasonable stuff. People are looking for the community to be better. So, but the challenge is going to be, we need to do it together. And so, as long as we do it together, we're going to achieve those dreams. So that's really, 4 years from now, I want people to say, Walé listened to me. He made sure that my voices were reflected in city council decisions. That's something that I absolutely commit to. And he ensures that, what we agreed upon as a community, we actually achieved that. And there's nothing unrealistic about that. That's what people are asking for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
This is our closing one?
Yep.
Or,
Yeah,
all right.
this is
Cue
it.
me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same question. So if you're elected, finish this sentence. 4 years from now, I'll have done my job well if.
4 years from now, I've done my job well if every resident's voice, when they submit, can be heard, not just heard, but measured, mapped, tracked, moved through where their city council members who represent them are undeniable in hearing it, in seeing it, and witnessing it. That's the foundation that we start from. In 4 years from now, if I don't accomplish that, where local government becomes accountable to you, to your family, to your neighborhood, to your neighbors, whether you agree or disagree. That's where we move from, because it's not vibes or slogans. If you are here to represent me, that means that I want you to actually represent me. I want you to have real-time input. And a successful mayor 4 years from now for me is that when it comes to housing, affordability, families, growth, struggling businesses, your concerns, complaints, snow removal, as one of my neighbors said, it doesn't just go into the ether, and it actually lands and it gets tracked and moved along. And that's what I'm offering. It's a different type of civic duty and civic engagement that hasn't been done, but is doable, and we'll get it done.
All right. Well, cool. That's all I got for you guys. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all.
Let's give it a round of applause
All right.
for the shoe. Thank you.
Cool.
Good for the shoe.
Yeah, stick
The
around.
shoe,
These guys are going to
Matt.
come say hi to everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody else that hasn't.
Check out the shoe. They're amazing. Old fashioned. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Seriously.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Appreciate it.